Okay, welcome back, and we are now in part 4. Now, I hope that you did your homework and you kept your failure journal. I told you, don't take longer than 5 minutes on it, but I hope that you wrote some failures down that happened over the last 24 hours or since you watched part 3 or module 3. I hope that you're able to look at those and figure out, some successes that were born of those failures. Because now that you've started the practice of putting pen to paper, which, by the way, is a really powerful experience for anybody, when you start to put pen to paper, and I'm going to prove this to you in a minute. I have my trusty journal here. This journal, by the way, there's one line in this journal that changed my whole life that when I wrote it down, it sparked something in me. It stuck in my head and I didn't forget it. And I'm going to tell you the story of how that one line came to be and how that one line has now grown into this course, into a book, into a speaking tour, into one line that I wrote in a journal has launched everything that I've done with Flipping the Gratitude Switch, the book, the course, the speaking, all of it. One line. Isn't that crazy? This is the power of why you've got to put pen to paper or pencil to paper. See, we're actually going to talk in this section about how I came to discover this idea of flipping the gratitude switch. You've heard me talking about it. We talked about the power of gratitude and how to activate gratitude and what that can do. We talked about the tale of two men, right? We talked about the necessity for an increase in happiness and fulfillment in this world, in this life. Now I'm going to share with you how I went from, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm angry with life, and I was man number 2, and I was kind of like the mean guy. What was the moment that everything shifted for me? How did I get from there to here? And I hope that I'm a much better person, and I at least look at the world very differently now than I did then. See, it all began when I went to a seminar. Now, by the way, I have found that one of the best ways for me to learn and one of the best ways for me to create additional success and opportunity is to get my butt out of my house and go to an event. And by the way, it's especially awesome when you pay to go to a seminar and pay to go to an event. Because here's the deal. You could show up to a free thing all the live long day. I mean, look, we go to church and things like that and it's free. And so we kind of condition ourselves to thinking, if it's free, I could just go and be a casual observer. When you go to an event, you shouldn't approach it like being a casual observer. You should go and approach it as if you are absolutely immersed or going to immerse yourself in the work and in the event, because it changes how you approach the event. Well, I had a chance to go to an event in 2010. And it was for a man who's later become a good friend and a mentor of mine. And he teaches speakers how to become more successful speakers. He teaches you the business of speaking. And I didn't really know what I was going into when I went to this event. I had a good buddy of mine that invited me, and he said, "Hey, Kev, I think, I know that you do a lot of speaking for your company." At that time, I wasn't what we call in the industry a fee-paid speaker, where I would go and give a talk and collect a check for going and giving that talk. At the time, I was just speaking for my company and helping to, share who we were and what we did with the world. And but I was on stage a lot, and I was doing a lot of speaking. And so my friend, Chris, he said, "Hey, Kev, you ought to come to this thing." And thank goodness for Chris Miles, because he introduced me to a world that I didn't know that I was going to fall in love with. And he ended up introducing me by inviting me to the event, to the speaker who would completely change my reality, and I didn't know it. And so here I was at this event, and I was really enjoying the event. I was learning lots of good stuff. And this one man comes up on stage, and I'd never heard of him before. And his name was Darren Hardy. And Darren Hardy, who is, I believe he's the editor of Success Magazine. I think he owns Success Magazine. Great publication, by the way. He also has written a couple books like The Compound Effect and The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. Great books. He's a man who studied for years Jim Rohn and all the greats in the success industry. And Darren was on stage and he was just talking in general about the compound effect and how little things over time can become big things. And I don't even remember why he got to this tangent. Maybe it wasn't even tangential. Maybe it was just, he was just telling the story. But he was talking about his wife, and he was talking about how much he loved her. And he was talking about something that he did for her that changed their entire relationship. And when he shared it, it changed me. He said that he'd done this thing for a year. Talk about commitment. For a year, he'd written every day in what we call, you can look at the screen, what many of you have maybe heard of, a gratitude journal. Now, I hope you're feeling a little confusion, because I think at the end of the last video I told you gratitude journaling doesn't work. It usually doesn't stick, and I'm going to share with you exactly why I think that is. But I also want to make a space and help you realize that it's a good first step, and it's a step that helped me figure out more about how to flip the gratitude switch and how to activate gratitude and use it as a powerful piece of my life. So Darren was talking about, he kept this gratitude journal for an entire year for his wife. So what he did is every day he'd write something in the journal that he was thankful for about his wife. So, maybe they were having a rough day, or maybe, even if they had a little argument, he would still write something down that he was thankful for. And he did this for a year, and he collected it, and he took this journal and he gave it to her for like Christmas or their anniversary or something. And it really affected her, and it affected their relationship. And I wrote something down in my journal when he told me that story, when he told the audience that story, that I'm going to share with you here in a second, because that one line that I wrote down has changed my entire life. So now fast forward, I tell you that as the backstory, because now I want you to fast forward to a few years ago when I was at what I would consider my low point. In the book, I call it my rock bottom. And I realized as I was writing the book that what rock bottom is that place you get to where you really only have two choices: end it all or make it better. And, there's a lot of people that talk about rock bottom. For me, this was where I got so low that I either had to cut and run, and I had to go far, far away and just say, you know what, I'm done with this thing. I have to completely change all of it. I got to change the life. I got to change everything. Or I just say, screw it. And I say, it's gone. Life is over, whatever. That for me was rock bottom. And it may seem silly. I mean, when I got to this place, it was just because I'd been working at my job, which was actually a company that you may be familiar with, that I'm a part owner of. And at the time, we'd hired this individual who was running our marketing department. And for some reason, I don't have a lot of people in my life that just fundamentally dislike me. Maybe you do watching right now, I don't know. But generally, I don't have people that just hate me out and out. This guy just did not like me. And I had moved myself as a quote-unquote owner, founder of the company. I somehow managed to move myself into an employee role inside of the company. And this guy who we'd hired to be our marketing guy ended up becoming like my boss. And he didn't like me. And he gave me, in my mind, as a victim, thinking that I couldn't control my outcome. He didn't give me any good work to do, and he didn't appreciate me, and he didn't see how much I've contributed, and that stuff that you do is what I talked about with man number 2. And so in this total victim mentality, I was just like, oh, this is terrible. I don't like what I'm doing. Everything is bad. And I make light of it now, but guys, I was in a rough spot. I remember this day, sitting in my car, looking down. At the time, our office that I worked in was you had to walk down these stairs. It was kind of in a courtyard. You had to walk down these stairs in the courtyard, kind of across this grass, and then there was our office. And I was working in the basement of the office, so I literally had to walk down in. And I remember parking, looking down at where I was going to go to work that day, and having all those feelings of, maybe I should just quit. Maybe it should just be done, all of it. What if I just drive away? What if I just say, forget it all? See, at the time I was in a pretty, there was good things happening in my life, but I didn't view them as that. We'd had this new baby, my wife and I, and he was the greatest kid, but he would wake up every 2 hours throughout the entire night. And I'd been doing a lot of traveling, and I'd been running all over the country, doing what I thought I was passionate about, but not actually being happy about it because nobody appreciated my contribution. And so I'm in this car exhausted because I'd go on these trips, and my wife would feed our baby throughout the night every 2 hours because he woke up like clockwork every 2 hours. And he had this problem. He would always spit up. And so I felt like we were always covered in vomit. And so Milana, that's my wife, she would take care of the baby while I was gone, and I'd come home, and then it was like, okay, you sleep, I'll get up with the kid throughout the night. So I would get up with Brax throughout throughout the entire night, every 2 hours, feed him, he'd throw up on me, I'd clean it up, then I'd put him back to bed, and then we'd do it all over again and again and again. And so I was feeling exhausted on this day. I was feeling exhausted because we'd had a rough night. I was feeling exhausted because I felt like I wasn't appreciated in life, and I was feeling exhausted because I wasn't experiencing all the joy that I wanted. And there I was sitting in my car, looking down at the office and going, what do I do? I'm tired. No, I'm not tired. I'm exhausted. I'm frustrated. I'm not making the money that I want. I'm not appreciated. I went through the whole laundry list of everything that was going wrong in my life. I felt like I was at rock bottom. And in that moment, I received a gift. It was a gift of a memory. Now, why do you read books? Why do you watch courses like this? Why do you go to live events? Because they may plant a seed in your mind that later may be harvested at the exact time that you need it, and you don't even know that it's coming or when you're going to need it. But in that moment that you need it, it's there. And that was me. There I was, sitting there. And I got this gift, this memory of this man named Darren Hardy who'd kept a journal about his wife where he wrote something he was thankful for, this gratitude journal. And I had this thought like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't think I feel like I have an answer for how to change my life. Maybe that's it. Maybe I could do that. Maybe I could use gratitude. So, what did I do? Well, I went to the store. I was stayed in my car. I drove over, at the time Borders still existed. I drove over to Borders and I bought 2 journals. Or no, I bought 3 journals because I bought one for my wife, one for my daughter, and one for my son. And I thought, well, here's what I'll do. I'll write in these journals every day. I'll write something I'm thankful for. It'll be a good way to remember memories or whatever. And then I will give this to them at some point in their life. I was trying to make this commitment to myself that, man, maybe if I just commit to writing in the gratitude journal every day for all 3 of them, life would start to change and shift. And can I tell you something? It did. It started to change because I found that I was starting to focus on things that I was thankful for more than the things that I was frustrated with. But there was this problem. I don't know if you have this problem, but most do. Have you ever tried to journal and then it lasts for like a day? Or maybe 2, maybe a week. I don't know very many people that stay super consistent with their journaling. And by the way, can you please answer this question for me? Why is it, there's actually, believe it or not, there's somebody behind the camera right now he's looking at me. And so I'm going to ask him, because maybe, Carson, I don't know if you've had this experience, but have you ever journaled and then you make a commitment, and maybe you've done this, you make a commitment and you journal for a few days and then you stop. And then when you go back to the journal, a week later, you apologize to the journal? Have you ever done that? So you do this, right? You do this thing where you go, I'm so sorry, it's been so long since I've written it. The journal's gonna care. You should be apologizing to yourself, but you don't. You apologize to the book. So I did that. I kept writing for a few days, and then I'd drop off the face of the earth, and I was so busy, and then I'd come back, I'm sorry, it's been so long since I've written, blah, blah, blah. And I was trying to do this gratitude journal thing, and it was kind of working, but it wasn't all the way working. So why do I say that gratitude journaling doesn't work? Because here's what I started to realize. I started to realize that as I was gratitude journaling every single day, it was helping me because it was taking my mind from a place of being unsatisfied and unfulfilled, at least in a moment, to thinking about something that had happened that I could be thankful for. But here's the key, because as I started to shift and really discovered the power of flipping the gratitude switch, what I had to realize is, why wasn't it sticking? Why wasn't I able to faithfully gratitude journal every single day? Maybe it was lack of commitment, but here's what I think it really was. See, that gratitude was starting to change my life, but I wasn't accelerating in the way that I wanted. The gratitude that I was trying to use hadn't completely transformed everything. It had made things just a little bit better. And so here's what I realized. I went, wait a second. Maybe it's because when I gratitude journal, now, by the way, this is not to say that you shouldn't gratitude journal. A good friend of mine by the name of Sydney, who I actually talk about in the book, who was one of the first people that heard me speak about gratitude and wrote me this unbelievably nice email a year after I talked about gratitude, before I even knew it was a thing that I was going to talk about for the rest of my life. She writes me this email and she says, you talked about gratitude journaling, because I told that story. And she did it for her husband during a really rough time in their life. And it changed her and it changed their marriage. And so there are merits to gratitude journaling. But this is why I don't think it works real well for most people, and why in the moment of gratitude journaling you feel great, but why it doesn't necessarily stick is because of this. Look, there is only one time ever in history that is the most powerful. I don't know if you know this, but there's only one moment ever that is the most powerful. Do you know what it is? It's now. It's right this second. Because see, when you move out of this place of now to then, you're trying to affect something that already happened or reference something that already happened. Okay, not the worst thing in the world, right? But you're not here. And when we go into the future, we love to dream. Jim Rohn talks about you got to keep your dreams. I love that, right? And you know what? You do. You've got to dream. But when you dream, you're still not there. You're going over there, or you're going back over there when you're in the past. But where you affect the most change in your life is right here. It's right now. Gratitude journaling for me was removing me from now, taking me into then, and then trying to figure out what I was thankful for. Because I would sit there and I would go, what happened yesterday that I really am thankful for? And it was great, right? It started to do something. I've learned as I studied gratitude that when you activate and experience gratitude, your body has a physical chemical shift. We'll talk about it when we get to the fourth part of the formula here in a little bit. And that's what I was feeling because I was still activating gratitude. So it was beginning to change my life. But I thought, if I'm not sticking with the gratitude journaling every single day, what could I do that would at least allow me to engage gratitude? See, I'd seen enough of this gratitude idea that it was starting to change my life. So how could I make it more of an active part? And here's what I did. I didn't just gratitude journal. I came up with this sheet. And this little sheet that I had, I wrote down. And at first it wasn't a sheet. At first it was here, let me just grab this. Sorry, as I go off camera here. At first it was a phone. And on my phone, what I would do is I have an iPhone. And the iPhone has this thing called reminders, right? And so what I would do is I would set these reminders. And what I would do is throughout the day, I would just set these reminders that every single day I needed to do 7 things. And these 7 things would change my life, okay? This is what I just kind of created. Like, okay, the gratitude is helping. I'm starting to get out of rock bottom, feeling a little bit better. The gratitude journal is helping, but I'm not being as consistent as I'd like. What else should I be doing? And is there a way that I could actively make myself do something every day that would change my life? What I created was something I called the 7 Daily Decisions. By the way, that's another book that's coming in the future. I won't go through all 7 of what the daily decisions are, but I promise you this. If you were to make a tiny decision in these 7 categories every single day for the rest of your life, just one tiny decision in a moment, and you were to do that every day, you would live such an incredible and unbelievable life. Okay? That, my friends, is what we call an open loop in the sales world. And now you really want to know what the 7 are, huh? You're not going to find out until the book comes out. But here's what I did. One of those 7 was gratitude. And so in my phone, I created these reminders, and the reminders would go off throughout the day, and it would be like, hey, remember to experience gratitude. So my phone would tell me. And so what I would do is I'd go, oh yeah, okay, cool. I'll definitely feel gratitude today. And then at some point during the day, because the reminder had gone off, I'd try to think about something. Oh yeah, I'm thankful for whatever. And that began to help. But what really began to help is when I realized that when the reminder goes off, and by the way, on this sheet, this is the, if you are looking at the course, and if we put the slide in there, you'll actually get to see what I do in the mornings, and then what my 7 daily decisions are. So I guess I didn't keep it secret, but it was one of the 7, and I would just mark it off when it happened. And so what I started to do is when the reminder on my phone went off, this is where I started to find the power. I would feel gratitude in that moment. So I wasn't using the journal to go back to some other time to feel thankful for some other thing. The reminder would go off and I'd go, okay, I'll be thankful right now. So what's going on? Oh, let's see. Look, I have feet. Okay, that's cool. So I'm thankful I have feet. Yay. And then I would just feel good, right? And every day it was something. If it went off and I was eating food, it could be like, oh man, I'm thankful that I have food. And so I started to realize that the power in gratitude was feeling gratitude immediately. But here's the but. Gratitude journaling worked, but didn't get me where I wanted it to go. Using the daily reminders worked, but I still wasn't where I wanted to be. I still wasn't experiencing the level of joy, fulfillment, and happiness that I wanted to feel. And that's when I figured it out. You see, here's the journal. And as I was trying to figure this out and knowing that I needed to use gratitude and seeing that the journaling was helping, but it wasn't perfect, seeing that the reminders were helping, but they weren't perfect, I thought, maybe I should go back and look at what I wrote that day when Darren Hardy talked about gratitude. Maybe I ought to check that out. I wonder if there's a clue. So here it is. Now, you're going to laugh at me, okay? If you're seeing the screen, you can see, I don't know what was wrong with my brain, but what I wrote down is barely English, but it was enough that I could figure it out. Here's what I wrote, and I started. I said, based on whatever Darren Hardy was saying, I doubt he said these words because they literally sound like I don't know the English language, but here's what I wrote down. I said, pick a frustration I have and keep for 21 days a gratitude journal about that thing. I don't know. I was probably writing fast. So pick a frustration I have and keep for 21 days a gratitude journal about that thing. Now look, it doesn't matter how bad my English was as I wrote that down. There was a word that stuck out. That word was this: frustration. And I went, wait. So it's not just about journaling of something I was thankful for that happened back then. And it's not necessarily about taking this moment and looking around and trying to find something I'm thankful for, although those are both really great things. It's about picking in a moment of frustration when it happens and feeling gratitude for it. That, my friends, is how I created Flip the Gratitude Switch. As we go to the next section, I'm going to begin sharing with you the 4-part formula, which is flipping the gratitude switch, which is how you take a frustration in a moment and activate, and actually put to work gratitude in that moment for that frustration, which will change your life forever. So here's what I want you to do, okay? Here's your homework for this assignment. I want you to write down at least 5 frustrations that you've had today. Now look, we're going to get more into this in the next part. So what could a frustration be? A guy cut you off on the freeway. That lady, dropped her canned soup on your toe. I mean, I don't care what it is. The kids wrote on the wall. You went to your work break room and there was no ice in the ice machine. I don't care what it was. What are the frustrations? I want you to write down 5, and I want you to keep those handy because we're going to start to do some work on them when I take you through the 4-step process of flipping the gratitude switch.